A rising star on the left, Zohran Mamdani, has one more reason to celebrate. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez just endorsed him for mayor of New York City. Mandani has surged to second place in the race, though he is still trailing behind former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. AOC recently has made headlines for her fighting oligarchy tour with Senator Bernie Sanders. She's also sparked 2028 presidential speculation.
On the other hand, Mandani is a relative newcomer to politics. He's represented New York's 36th state assembly district, but this is his first high-profile election. So how much of a gamble is this endorsement for AOC? Well, some social media users think it's pretty significant. Maury Litwack says AOC endorsing Mamdani is the radical left putting all their chips in. If Mamdani wins, they effectively lead the Democratic Party. If he loses, it's a major setback for their ability to scale. AOC can't run for Senate or president if they can't win mayor. June 24th is a major event and litmus test that you don't want to miss.
That seems largely fair enough to me. That I don't know anything about Maury Litwack, but that seems a fair point. I mean, I think that the criticism, of course, that the left always faces is, oh, well, you're destined to lose elections. You need to be in the centre to win. Perhaps worth noting in passing that 4 years ago, AOC endorsed Mayor Wiley, who was the left-wing candidate for New York mayor that time. Didn't do a whole lot of good. Mayor Wiley lost. Eric Adams is obviously now the mayor. We could talk for a long time about Eric Adams and his many troubles, but the point is, at the time, his victory in the primary was a defeat for the left. So I do think it is an important race. I don't think Mamdani is sure to win by any means. He's still trailing Cuomo in the polls by a considerable margin. But I think AOC had to endorse. He's pretty clearly the candidate who lines up most closely with her. He's a democratic socialist. There was actually quite a lot of dissatisfaction on the left about how long it was taking her to make an endorsement. So I think she's right to back him. One other complication that people who don't follow New York politics might not be completely aware of is that the primary is so-called ranked choice voting, where you fill out preferences, and if lower polling candidates get eliminated, it transfers to another person. That might give Mamdani a slightly better chance if there's an anti-Cuomo block. But what do you make of all this?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I do think that AOC has more clout this time around than she did in the last mayoral election. She's become more of a national star and I think has moderated to an extent from some of her previous progressive positions. Mamdani is not a moderate, obviously, by any means. Right. But there was an interesting moment in the primary debate where the candidates were asked if they would travel to Israel or if they would travel abroad as mayors of New York City. And he was the only person who said, no, actually, my focus is on the people of New York. And I granted, disagree with him on a lot of policy positions, but I thought that was really refreshing for him to acknowledge what his priorities are meant to be as a mayor of a major U.S. city and not falling into this trap of trying to be the world's mayor and certainly not putting so much attention on Israel. I'm not sure why that would be the role of the New York mayor. Right. I saw some chatter online, well, the New York mayor is such a big position that they have major influence on the global stage. And it's like, come on, guys, they're not the president. No, I mean, they're not supposed to really be involved in foreign policy. Right. So I did appreciate that he was willing to take that stance.
Yeah, I think it's right both to focus on the bread and butter issues of New Yorkers and to veer away from all of that. And to my mind, it's a kind of move away from just this idea that you appeal to certain ethnic blocs in America. Many years ago, when I first came from Ireland to live in New York, and I remember reporting on New York politics, and I remember a strategist saying to me, there used to be a rule in New York politics of appealing to the three I's, which were Ireland, Italy, and Israel, in terms of the voting blocs in New York City. That has obviously changed very significantly, and good for Mamdani to do that. We should perhaps say that, I mean, part of the reason he takes that view is that he is extremely critical of Israel and its conduct in relation to Gaza. He uses the word genocide, which AOC does not, and so he's obviously aligned with a different view. But he wants his campaign to be mostly about things like offering free bus rides across the city, rent controls and things like that. Things that a good conservative like you would be appalled at, Amber, but he's still making his play for it, I think.
He is, yeah. I do think one of the moments in the debate that did trip him up was he was asked about previous comments saying that the New York Police Department was a wicked institution and that he would defund them if possible. He denied saying that. It's on his Twitter account. I'm looking at it right now. Which is okay. That's a little problematic. And I'm not sure that kind of rhetoric is going to play with New York right now when crime is obviously top of mind for a lot of New Yorkers. I think people are really frustrated with Eric Adams for thinking that he was going to be the sort of police candidate of the left to take on some of those issues, and they're a little dissatisfied with his tenure on that. Also frustrated with his ability, or his willingness rather, to work with the Trump administration. And Andrew Cuomo and Mandani have taken the tack that Trump is an existential threat to the country and to democracy, but also feel like, at least on Cuomo's side, that immigration and crime are indeed issues facing New Yorkers, and so they need to address those. But Cuomo also has all of these scandals floating over his head, which does open up a door for perhaps a progressive challenger.
No, 100%. I mean, I am frankly surprised that Cuomo is leading in the polls by as much as he is. To my mind, that is perhaps as much a reflection of name recognition as anything else, because both in terms of the accusations of sexual misconduct, which he denies, and I think even more damningly, the COVID stuff, where he way played down the deaths in New York City nursing homes. I mean, I know that COVID is moving into the rearview mirror, but the ethics of that seem to me to be very close to disqualifying.
Yeah, one thing I always say about big cities is that people are willing to tolerate a certain level of corruption if they have an effective mayor, and maybe Cuomo's a reflection of that, of how much they're really willing to take.
Absolutely, I think that could be the case.
Senator Chuck Grassley, meanwhile, is saying that former FBI Director Christopher Wray gave false testimony to Congress in 2023. We'll find out why next.